And let's talk about plants and what they are telling us that they need. Obviously, if the plants are green and luscious and everything's great, but most of the time, we all have some problem with some plant or plants in our garden.
So a common problem or sign that your plant might not be doing so good is called, it's like a leaf and flower drop. It could even be like a fruit drop. Say that, your, cucumber or something is the flowers are just dropping off. That's a sign. So, typically means that the plant is stressed. So this could be because of a lack of water, overwatering, like a temperature change.
Even transplant shock.
Right, transplant
not
shock.
Not hardening off the plant correctly.
Mm-hmm. Eventually, if it is transplant shock, your plant will adapt to the new condition. You might see some leaf or flower drop, but it's not necessarily the worst thing.
It also could be a bug issue. Many times, if not every time, the bugs that are affecting our plants are under the leaves rather than right there on top screaming, here I am, find me. They're hiding, whether it's tomato hornworm, whether it's squash bugs, caterpillars, a variety of other bugs. They hide under the leaf because of protection as well as their safety and protection there and the sun. So they hide there. So you have to go and look under and also look under the leaves. And also it's best as we do, be proactive rather than reactive. Continue to look at your plants throughout the growing season. So that's the case. But
so you're not surprised.
You're right. Leaf drop and flower drop, a good sign that stress of some sort is occurring. And this is the same not only in your vegetable garden, your perennial garden, inside your house with house plants. These all are applicable to all of those types of situations and gardens.
And one thing is, especially in your house plants, is you might have a low sun, low light plant sitting by a window.
And it's getting burnt up.
And it's getting burnt up. So that's something to keep in mind as well.
Well, let's take a look at some of the more common situations that people will face in their gardens with what the plant is telling us. It's by looking at the plant, and there is a very prevalent color discoloration in the leaves. That is one of the most telltale signs that you have a significant or soon to be significant deficiency of nutrients in your soil.
So if you have lack of nitrogen, this is when you typically have like lighter green leaves, yellowing leaves, even sometimes smaller leaves, and like a lot of times they'll drop earlier. So that's how you know that that is typically lack of nitrogen. Definitely like the yellowing or not getting like fully green. And
a lot of the times the plant, fill in the blank, whatever it is, it will show the symptoms on the larger, older leaves first, and the problem persists and is worse enough, it will drop and kick those older leaves off to sustain and support the younger vegetation the plant is developing during the growth cycle. It's kind of, it knows it can't support that big leaf, so it kicks it off, and then the smaller new leaves, the tender leaves, will get what nutrients that the plant can uptake. In this instance, the nitrogen. And nitrogen is the first number on your fertilizer bag if you're on any bag anywhere in the world. The next one is phosphorus.
So typically, if you have a lack of phosphorus, your leaves are going to turn like a purplish color, sometimes even like a bronzish color. So you want to keep that in mind. And then just like anything else, your leaves are going to be smaller, maybe distorted. You're going to notice that there's definitely like a lack of something.
Another one, that's the second number on a fertilizer bag. And for those who are playing at home, you've guessed it, potassium is the third number on the fertilizer bag, and the third particular deficiency in which we will talk about on your plants.
So this one is the leaves are going to kind of roll up and towards the middle. So phosphorus,
curl.
Yeah, they're going to kind of curl. And then also the tips also could kind of die back late in the season. So you have to keep that in mind that this is something that you might not notice right away.
Now, the leaf curling, this is not, you have to know if you actually have a deficiency. And the only way you really know if you have a deficiency, Holly, is if you get a soil test. Leaves on plants will curl in extreme heat. Squash plants, cucumber plants, corn will all roll up, not because they are lacking potassium, but because they are reducing the surface area of exposure to the sun to reduce the amount of evaporation of moisture coming out of the plant. You'll see this in big ag in the farm fields with corn. When it's really dry, they'll curl up during the day. They'll relax at night. Same thing with our cucumbers or pumpkins. Even if they're hydrated properly, they will relax the leaves and it will look like they are dying, but they are reducing the surface area for less sun exposure because it is extremely hot on the plant.
Right. So the next one is calcium. And these would have, like, again, just the dead tips. And then also, like, with tomatoes or any fruit, you're going to have some brown
developmental
problems. So if calcium is the case, you're going to know because it kind of turns the leaves brownish. And same thing with, like, the tomato or pepper or whatever.
Yeah, it turns the bottom of the fruit. It doesn't have enough nutrient in order to properly develop the fruit that's on the plant. And we can supplement, powdered milk or Tums, or if you do eggshells, you need to dry them out, pulverize them to a powder, and then you can put them in the soil, and that will allow the microbial life to break down those eggshells much quicker to a more usable form. You can also get liquid calcium and granular calcium in order to supplement the situation. And we might as well touch on it, Holly, because we're getting close to tomato harvest, or we've got our tomatoes in the ground. Blossom and root rot is not fixed by Epsom salt, because Epsom salt is magnesium sulfate, and calcium deficiency is from a lack of calcium.
Right. So the reason this happens is that just like many of us, we plant our plants, we tend our garden a little bit, and then we get rain a lot of times. So then oftentimes after all that rain, the rain slows down and then the tomatoes start to fruit. So when the rain slows down, then we're locking up the calcium in the soil. So if you get an irrigation system or just remind yourself to water, you're going to help prevent that blossom end rot. The calcium won't be locked up in the soil.
Now we'll touch on the final one here. There's many, many different nutrient deficiencies that are your plants potentially could have. And if you feel like you have one, do a Google search, do a Yahoo search, do a search engine search on the deficiency and see what the leaf color is. There's multiple sources that will indicate the leaf color at that deficiency level. And then you can start narrowing it down so you know how to attack the problem properly. Obviously, if you have good nutrient-rich soil, you got a lot of organic matter, compost, you fertilize properly, the risk of having a deficiency is less. However, if you're in containers, you will continue to have to fertilize because of the leaching of the nutrients from watering and raining. It has very little retention because you continue to water and flush that nutrients out. Magnesium deficiency first appears in this situation, the younger leaves. And the leaves are light green with dark bands along the veins. So that's a different indication. So it's not one size fits all with all these deficiencies. Eventually, it will develop into looking more water stressed, and then it will look less normal. Anything that looks unnatural or out of characteristic, there's a deficiency or there's a bug causing the stress of the plant. So there's a lot of things. We talk about deficiency of the nutrients, but also bugs and insects can have a tremendous impact on the plants and how they react and how they grow.
Right. For more information, please visit thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.